I think about the suffering already in our city, the businesses that we're hoping to reopen that have been so badly beaten down by COVID-19, businesses that had a fighting chance and could have welcomed customers back this weekend but are now closed, damaged, and looted. But just as we have during this COVID-19 crisis, we will support those small businesses. My promise to them is that you are the bedrock of our economy, and I'm committed to cleaning up our streets as we've been doing each day, to giving assistance to the small businesses who feel as shattered as their window fronts, to the employees who need a paycheck and now wonder if that is gone, and those who need to lead our recovery economically from this pandemic. It breaks my heart, too, to think about the Angelenos protesting in peace and fighting for justice, how this violence and looting clouds that picture. Those who celebrate the pictures are the ones who seek to divide us, to make sure we can't find common ground. I think about parents in different neighborhoods worried about whether their children can play outside or whether they can take a walk around the block. And it is my core responsibility to make sure I do everything in my power to keep our streets clean and just, to make sure that we have our communities safe and fair. It's not an either-or. And violence is never the answer to violence, even if it's thousands of miles away. If we were watching closely yesterday, we saw that Angeleno spirit in action in Pan Pacific Park, people demonstrating with nonviolence and strength. We saw images of officers on the line exercising restraint we expect of them. But we also saw people burning vehicles, jumping on buses. We saw tactics that all of us need to make sure restore the peace and find the common ground. As I've said, we know that there are those among the peaceful demonstrators who are not interested in peace. Their interest is in chaos, not calm, destruction, not justice. And we know that there are always, in any system, accountability that whether you're an officer with a badge or an everyday citizen, that you need to be held accountable to. And it's my promise that that will always be our city. So we have to tap now into every resource that is available to protect our city. That is the job at hand today. And I want to give you a few updates on some of our steps and decisions in the past 24 hours to do just that. When times demand it, strong steps are required to bring peace back to our city, which is why I enacted, as heavy a decision as it was, a citywide curfew. I gained some strength from mayors across the city who I talked to, from Atlanta to Seattle, from Denver to Cincinnati, in Louisville, and of course Minneapolis, who said, when the innocent start to be the victims, when lives begin to be lost, our first responsibility always is, so that we can find progress and justice, to restore calm and peace to our streets. The goal here is to keep all Angelenos safe, and please help do that. We all have to own that ourselves, to give law enforcement and firefighters the space they need to keep the peace. And so we will keep this curfew in place this evening, the same hours from 8 p.m. and lasting through 5:30, covering every part of Los Angeles. But on top of that, wherever emergencies arise, we ask our partners across the state for assistance. We provide aid to each other, just as we send firefighters for fires over our borders. Those same cities and places send us help, including from the state. And in that spirit, we received and thank the additional support that came from law enforcement agencies elsewhere in the state: Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, Ventura, and Kings counties. And in the early evening last night, I spoke with Governor Gavin Newsom to provide him with an update on what was happening here in Los Angeles. I described the situation. I explained how it had become clear that a small group had turned a nonviolent gathering into acts of violence and criminal acts against our local businesses. He offered to declare a state of emergency and send in and supplement National Guardsmen and women, everyday citizens who put on a uniform that could come here to help us. And I said yes. We've declared states of emergency for fires and earthquakes. We're in one now for COVID-19. My heart breaks that we had to declare one because some people, some of them from outside of our communities, started fires and threw rocks and other dangerous items. People who drove from across town in caravans, in cars to jump out, to loot, get back in the car, and do it again. That's the worst of us, and that's clearly an emergency.